Hi, third grade. So before spring break, we were planning an experiment. So I want to back up for a moment before I jump right into the experiment. We need to remember why we were doing this. What was the purpose of this experiment? So our plan was to create an experiment to see how animals might behave if there are changes in their environment. And the animal I chose was going to be a worm. Now, when we talked about the environment, I presented 3 different things that we could look at. We could look at changes in temperature, changes in amount of water, or even different foods that might be available. And you guys went ahead and chose what you wanted to focus on. Okay, but again, the primary focus out of all these, no matter which one you chose, was to see if animals behave differently if their environment changes. So to begin, for any experiment you chose, I have to first get worms. Okay, first we have to get worms. Now again, you do not have to collect them. If you want to, you may. But I will conduct the experiments for those who don't have the ability to do this themselves. But it's kind of cool if you guys can share what you experienced and what you did. So for right now, I'm going to collect my worms out of my compost. But before I do that, I actually, and I'm going to turn the camera around now, I had to first get a bucket of soil that I'm going to put the worms in. Okay, I'm hoping to set it up where I will have one condition, like one temperature on this side and a different temperature on this side, so that we can see how the worms behave. Or if we get into amount of water, I'm going to set it up a little differently for that. And for anyone who wants to look at that, you'll end up seeing a different video. And then same thing with food. We'll have one type of food on one side and a different type of food on the other side. And we'll see what the worms choose to do. And magically, there you go. I've got 10 worms in there. And yes, I am telling you how many I put in. So some of you chose 1 worm. Now, you gotta think about that. What would happen if, for whatever reason, that 1 worm died? Then your whole experiment's over. And you don't know if it died because changes in the environment or just it was time for it to pass. Similarly, with only 2 to 4 worms, it'll be difficult to get your results. Okay? And then I would say the same thing with 20 worms, especially the size of that container, might be just a few too many. So that 5 to 10, 8 to 10 range, that's a really good range. But don't worry, guys, whatever you chose, that's what you chose. And this is a learning process. So another thing I want to point out is I am going to show you the bucket again. Is right now those worms are not too happy for a couple of reasons. One, they are dry. So no matter what experiment, if we're doing an experiment with food or temperature, we still have to make sure the soil is moist. Also, they're going to want to be underground. They like it dark. If we were doing an experiment with the amount of water, I'll show you how that's going to be set up. Oop, I just saw one wiggle all the way down right there. If you're doing an experiment with temperature or amount of water, we still have to make sure they have food. Okay, so we have to be mindful, and I love that some of you had pointed that out already. You knew we had to include those items in our experiment. So right now, we're just still preparing the experiment, and I'm going to now set up different ones depending on what each scenario will be. And I will share different videos with you guys.